And welcome back. Yes, and we're moving into our segment here with nutritionist Doris Sutherland. This conversation will surround back-to-school nutrition tips, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, or provide your kids with so they can live a healthy lifestyle going into the upcoming school year. Doris, good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're looking lovely. We love the blouse.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Doris, this is such an important conversation, and I know a lot of parents may not want to hear it as well.
Yes.
Because we have to talk about what we're giving the kids at school.
Yes.
I want to just start off by looking at the situation at hand. We know that globally, the WHO, I know UNICEF has been on board as well. There's been more and more of a push to have people understand that children are eating unhealthy, and they're getting diseases that usually you only get in adulthood, from type 2 diabetes to hypertension and of course obesity. How do you find the problem in Belize?
Well, it is similar to other countries where it all starts from pregnancy. Okay, so you want to try to eat healthy from during the pregnancy stage. Okay, it all starts from whether you're breastfeeding or you're not. Okay, it all starts from the first foods that you feed your child. Okay, so if you don't start educating your child or feeding their child the foods that they should eat at the 6 months, then all of the consequences do happen. And then, so it's a matter of starting early. So as to prevent all of these.
And here's the thing, I always find that we feed babies based on our palate. So I may not love broccoli, so I'd imagine the 6-month-old won't love broccoli if I, steam it and puree it. Does it make a difference to them when you're first introducing food, whether it's sweet, salty, fruit, vegetable?
Yes, it does make a difference for babies because they have never tasted anything before. So if you give them a product, for example, the common mashed potatoes, and then you add a lot of salt to it, the baby starts to adapt to the acquire of the taste of the salt. So then you'd find yourself having to season everything with salt. So it does have to do with what you give your child at the beginning. Okay, so normally at the beginning you want to give bland foods, not too much spices or maybe no spices at all. No sugar, not too much oil, okay, so that the child can get adapted to those
soda.
Okay, because if you start with sugar as early as possible, then they'd want everything with sugar. So you do need to start to give them more bland foods, basically.
I think what Marlene, what you mentioned just now hit the nail on the head for every family. And I'm saying this because one of the things that we do is that, you're right, we give the children what we eat. So we're actually not raising them the way that we were actually raised. So we're actually moving them from this nutritional food to know whatever we find is flavorful. So how do you make a breakthrough for this, especially after listening to today's program, listening to the show, and I know for a fact, man, my kids aren't eating fruits and they love stuff that are salty. How do we get back to putting them level? How do we do that?
Yes, as you mentioned, one of the most common things that I hear from parents say is that I cannot prepare 2 meals, okay? But it is very important that you do prepare something separately for your child, okay? If your child is already 2 or 3 years old and let's say he's never had a vegetable before, then you want to start to incorporate them slowly. Okay, maybe he might not want to eat a piece of broccoli raw because of how it looks and how it tastes, or maybe because of the smell, but you do need to go incorporating them or mixing them together with other foods, maybe in the rice, in the chicken, or for some people even just blending them and pouring it over as a gravy as long as they're in the meal. Then slowly you go pairing them. Okay, what we find is that sometimes we want to force our child to eat cabbage. Okay, for example, he has never seen or tasted the cabbage before. So maybe you might want to ask your child which vegetable you want to eat, or take them to the store and have them choose the one that they find more attractive or that they might want to taste. And then you start from there. Okay, it's always good to pair vegetables that they like with the ones that they don't like. Okay, and then you go from that. Okay, so you don't want to give them all the ones that they don't like because they won't eat it. So you pair them together and then slowly you go introducing new ones every time. Okay,
So you can actually make this transition easier, like you said, if you train your child's palate from their young to accept vegetables. So at 6 months, they're having vegetables primarily, because I think the science is that they'll be able to, they'll like it more as they get older, because that was the first taste of food. But what if I didn't? What if I just did what everybody did? I give them the sip of the Coke and applesauce, because that's delicious to me, and I don't like the others, so that's what I give my baby.
Or the Gerber processed foods that we see that they give.
Yeah, all the puff
all of those
packages
things are sugar. Okay, so you do want to start with the vegetables, like how you mentioned. That should actually be the first thing to be introduced to the child at 6 months.
Okay, so I made all those mistakes, Doris. We'll be honest. Somebody's watching saying, I wish I knew that, but now they're going to go to preschool. Right now, they still only love all the sweets, you know, the Oreos and the soft drinks.
The soft drinks, the chips.
And now I gotta pack them up and make sure they eat. How do you help with that transition? How do you get there?
Well, the education should start from home, because when a child goes to school, they're faced with a lot of options to eat. You could pack your child's lunch or their snack, but that doesn't mean they'll necessarily eat what you provide them. So you do have to educate them from small and have them know what is right, what you should eat in moderation, and what you should never have. Okay, so it all starts from educating them at home. And then you have to practice it at home as a family too. Okay, you won't have your child eat vegetables, but then the mother and the father are not having it. So it has to be a change in the family. Okay, so that your child sees, okay, my mother is eating this, so that means it's healthy for me, and then I can eat it as well. Okay, maybe involve them in the cooking. Okay, it's a good time to actually teach them, let's say, how to wash the vegetables. You could show them the importance of eating tomatoes, or maybe tell them what tomatoes have or how they could benefit them in life. So it's a matter of including them also in the preparation of the meals.
What is the issue? What are the challenges? Because, you know, in other parts of the world, they're getting a lot more serious about how to crack down on what kids are having. And I know locally, our Ministry of Education and the schools have been working to kind of eliminate some of the unhealthy foods that for a long time we've been eating. In the Caribbean, in Mexico, they're actually adding additional taxes to soft drinks, because we just know that kids should not be having them. It's just way too much sugar. But in Belize, the uptake has been a bit slow with that. The juices are heavily sugared. The soda, we know, is just way too much sugar for anyone. And we know that, you know, even if you buy natural juices now, they add sugar to it too. So how do you educate parents when they come in that this is just one of the worst things you could be doing for your children?
Yes, it's important that they know exactly what the child is consuming. Okay, we cannot always stop all the vendors from serving these sugary products or cookies or chips and so on at the schools. Okay, but you can educate your child to have them maybe on special occasions. Okay, what we find sometimes is that some parents would give, let's say, a cupcake as a reward, but you don't want to do that either. Okay, because let's say if your child goes and gets 100 at school and then he comes home to a cupcake, then he might be doing that every day, and then you're gonna fall yourself into giving them more sugary products. Okay, so it's very important that we educate them, tell them the risks about eating sugar, not only tooth decay, but stomach pain. Okay, studies show that children that do eat sugary snacks tend to get sleepy after because of the drop of the glucose levels. Okay, when they eat sugary products, let's say you drink a soda, your sugary levels go high, but 1 hour later then it starts to decline. So then you start to get sleepy, and then your digestion isn't too well, and then you start to have cravings and you want to have the sugar again. So it's a cycle. Okay, so we do need to educate them on all the
how do you and I think this is definitely something that a lot of people might say, yeah, that's true. How do you detect that your child is addicted to sugar, and what do you do to calm them down from that? And I'm saying this because this is actually a fact. The child before going to sleep wants to drink juice. Wake up in the morning, wants to drink juice. And these things are actually readily available right there at home. Because parents feel like,
I want to make them happy.
Make them happy. How do we detect this, and how do we try to subside it?
Okay, a child that is addicted to sugar would normally have it daily, like how you mentioned. Okay, you want to start cutting it down. Let's say if he drinks 2 juices a day, just have 1. Okay, and then you can maybe probably dilute it a little bit at home before you serve to the child until they start to not want it. Okay, it's very important that they get hydrated with water.
Yeah.
Okay, water, sometimes children don't like water. They would probably rather replace it with a sugary drink or a sports drink instead of drinking normal water. Okay, so it all starts with feeding them well. Okay, because if we don't give them healthy food, then they crave more sugar. So there are other ways too, like you want to keep them active so that they don't be thinking on what do I eat next or what should I have later. Okay, so it's all of that.
You know, I find that we forget that children are humans and they have human functions and their body functions very similar to ours, perhaps at different rates sometimes. But we want them to be happy, and so if they want the chips, we give them the chips. If they want the chocolate, we give them the chocolate. If they want frosted flakes and sweetened milk for breakfast, and that'll make them eat. Oh, it's just a kid. Just give it to them.
The cereal, very healthy. No,
it's milk, but it has sugar in it. So there's a lot that we have to change mentally in getting there. And I think fundamentally, I want to say almost all parents want the best for their children.
Yes. And it's a matter of making it a habit. If you want your child to eat something that he's never eaten in 2 days, you won't get that. You have to give it to them at least 10 times. You have found that children need to be served the same food, maybe in different forms, up to 10 times until they accept it. Okay, so you cannot give up on the first day or the second day on taking away something from them or giving them something different. So you do need to do it regularly. Okay, and if you give in, then it's going to be hard.
I've seen
and we have to take off our own filters because maybe we don't like vegetables. And we didn't grow up eating meat either. But we can't just allow the child to continue. But one of the things that we do know is that processed food and high sugar foods and drinks are addictive. You get used to it, you want it more. So, you know, how do I shift to healthy but still make it something that they want? Like, what are some of the options as to what I can create or make substitutions that will replace, you know, a nice delicious bag of chips or a soft drink? Or how do I make those healthy replacements, especially when they're going to go to school?
Okay, well, starting from breakfast, okay, all the children should go to school with breakfast. Okay, if the child does not eat breakfast, their hunger levels increase, their concentration levels start to go down, and then their mood starts to change. So we do need to start to give them breakfast. If your child eats sugary cereals every day, then you might want to change that cereal to another one, maybe like a plain Cheerios or a regular cornflakes. Okay, if you add bananas to the cereal, for example, or berries or strawberries, then it does give them a little bit of sugar, but natural sugar. Okay, children should normally have low-fat milk. Okay, normally only until age 3 they should have full-fat milk, but after that they can give them the low-fat milk. Okay, because they're still getting the calcium from the milk. Okay, so you can still use the low-fat milk after age 3. With the fruits and the cereal itself.
If the child doesn't like probably the sweetness from a banana, can we replace that with honey?
Yes, you could use a little bit of honey once it's natural sugars, but you don't want to put the honey on everything because then you'll find yourself adding sugar still.
It's still feeding the sugar habit that they have.
Yes.
Now let's talk about those snacks that they're packing to take to school.
Takis.
Here, before we get there, because that's a critical one. It's easy to go to the store and buy the big, you know, assorted packs of chips and cookies. It's, I mean, as a working parent, just as a human being, it's just easy to buy it. What are some of the options? I mean, whether it's store-bought or practical things that people can get to take for the kids to take to school?
Okay, normally kids would take the traditional sandwich with apples, bananas, pears, things that are easier for them to peel, that you don't have to take the chops since they don't need to be refrigerated. You can send your child with pretzels, okay, plain crackers, nuts, the trail mix. Okay, so there are different things that you can give them assortedly. But the problem is that we would normally give them the same thing every day. So you want to change their snacks, you want to change their breakfast or their lunch so that they don't fall into this routine of having the same thing.
Yeah.
And then occasionally, maybe let's say on a Friday, okay, you can take your chips, but you're still taking your fruit. Okay, you don't want to encourage them to have it from Monday to Friday. So maybe on a specific day of the week, then they can have that. Okay, because if you restrict your child from not eating sugar, from not eating the Takis, for example, then they would start to crave more, and they will find a way to get it.
Oh,
Either, if not at home, they will get it from a friend at school
It's
or from a
probably
store.
at school,
So they will get it.
Okay,
So we do need to give them occasionally, not as a daily packed meal.
What about the fruits? How do you refer to it? We've got them, I think, dried fruits.
Oh,
Dried fruits are a good option as well.
So they're still
can
they
include
still got
them
their
in there.
nutritional balance in it, and
And if the school has a way to refrigerate, then you can give them the yogurt or a little box milk or so on. But that depends on whether
what
they
the
have.
school has to offer. Now we got to talk about Takis. I did want to touch on that. I told you that because it's fascinating to me. It's a very spicy chips, and there are other spicy chips as well.
Yeah.
But it's actually now there's a growing concern that little children are getting ulcers because of
Because
these
of that.
highly spiced and acidic snacks.
Yes. A child that eats a Takis every day, with time they can develop ulcers, like you mentioned. Ulcers will they lead to bleeding, to vomiting, and so on. And you might not detect it at the beginning if you don't detect it until the child starts to have symptoms from eating these spicy stuff. And it's not only the Takis, but it's also the pepper, the Cheetos, that burns, okay, or any other type of hot sauce.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to be giving them that. And
So
then
high acid foods.
acid foods. Okay, remember that the younger they start to eat these high acid foods, the more negative effects they will have, because their digestive system is still developing a little bit more.
yeah,
Okay.
you see young kids now eating pepper. I can remember back in the day, eat pepper because you're not a young one, but that's what people are actually feeding their kids now with. And
So that's what we're not thinking about, what these processed foods have in, because it's not really pepper, it's acid.
It's acid.
They put acid to make it taste like pepper.
So
And that's what's going into the systems. Are there any creative tips as to how to get kids to eat vegetables or fruits as a snack that you found to be effective?
Yes. Normally, like we mentioned earlier, is have them choose the type that they want. Okay. Have them maybe prepare it, and then have them maybe involve them in the washing, and then have them pack their own lunch. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want your child to go to school and have him open his container and see he doesn't eat anything from there.
Yeah.
Okay. So they can be included. Okay. Maybe with a little dip, bean dip, a little bit of hummus. Okay. Depending on what type they like or they want at home. But we should always accompany their lunch meal with a vegetable. Okay. And then we want to have them change it up a little bit. Okay. The plate needs to look as colorful as possible. Okay. Because if we only send them with one specific vegetable, then they won't be getting all the nutrients that they need. Okay. And then what we find sometimes that the child doesn't always get is enough protein. Okay. So they do need to have some sort of protein in their lunch meal.
So can cheese be a good snack?
Cheese, cheese sticks as well, but it all depends on the refrigeration.
Yeah.
Like we said. Okay. Sandwiches, tunas, chicken. Okay. Even fish. Okay. They can take
Bologna?
to school. Bologna. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bologna? Cool.
He's trying to grade himself as a parent right now.
Everything that you're saying, I'm trying to,
See if you can cook. Yeah.
What
So
are
we
some
can
of the
do that.
other downfalls that you see? I know one of the practices is that sometimes parents just give the kids money and they buy tacos before school, or they buy meat pies for lunch.
Perfect.
Talk to us about how healthy these are. I mean, tacos has cabbage and onions, right?
Yeah, that's what, that's the thought.
Yeah,
That's the thought.
but not too much. Having tacos isn't a really bad breakfast. However, I wouldn't say it's complete, because it doesn't have maybe enough vegetables. They're not maybe having the fruit. Okay, if the child is eating tacos in the morning, just have them have the fruit and then maybe their dairy serving in the morning. Okay.
But it also depends how much too.
Depends how much.
Wow.
Of course, children, they're growing, so their servings increase as they age. Okay, we find teenagers portions as large as an adult. Okay, so don't be afraid if your child says he eats more than me. That's because he should eat more than you. Okay, because he's in a growing stage.
Okay.
But then some kids eat too much. Like they're little and they eat too much. You could be 10 years old or 9 years old and having $5 tacos.
Yes, that would be too much.
So and is there anything right now that we as parents think that we're doing a good thing by having our children eat when in reality it's not a good thing? This is besides cereal, because for me as a parent, when I give my child cereal, I think and say, you're doing good. You're eating your cereal. But is there anything out there that we're eating? We're feeding our child or our children, and we feel that we're doing a good thing when in reality, we're not.
Yes. Normally, let's say when we give them a lot of flour, okay, because normally sometimes we just give them bread, okay, white flour, flour tortillas, Johnny cakes, and the common fried jack. Okay, so sometimes we might feel that as long as they eat, that's fine. Okay, but it's not only the food that you want to give them, it's the type of food that you want to make sure that they eat. Okay, if you give your child a breakfast that is loaded in oil, okay, that will affect his ability to concentrate and so on in school. Okay, so it doesn't only have to do with the cereal, but also the type of other foods that you give.
We didn't comment on the meat pie. Is that a complete meal for?
Meat pies is okay occasionally, okay, but then you have to take into consideration that it's a lot of flour and then the oil, okay, and then you're having beef for breakfast, so you want to be careful with what you're giving your child.
But you know, it's cultural, and this might sound bad. Tortilla on Monday, fried jacks on Tuesday, Johnny cakes on Wednesday, bread on Thursday, and bun on Friday. But they're eating. That's
but
the thought.
they're eating. That's the thought. Yes.
But it could also be affecting their learning. So what happens when you have this spike of because of glucose from the flour or from the sugar? What happens in terms of their learning process if they're not eating properly?
Okay, normally there's the loss in concentration. Okay, there's changes in mood. Okay, their behavior in class.
Oh, we know sugar highs.
Children that actually don't eat healthy, they get sick more. Okay, so then they tend to have more absences. Okay, so this is something that we want to look at as that way too. Okay, so if you give your child sugary cereals in the morning, if you give them a lot of fried food for breakfast, then they tend to get sick more often. Okay, stomach aches, tooth decay, okay, even gastrointestinal problems, okay, that you could have prevented just from changing the meals a little bit. Okay?
All these things are caused from when they
what they eat mostly.
So let's give an example of a healthy breakfast for a child. We did the plain cornflakes with banana and low-fat milk if the child is over 3.
Yes.
What else can we offer as a good breakfast for the kids to eat?
Normally kids would like oatmeal. Okay, if you add maybe a little bit of cinnamon to it along with milk and some fruits.
Flavor.
Okay, toast. Some children like toast. Okay, peanut butter. They can add to the toast, okay, a little small portion. You don't want to overload the bread with too much peanut butter. That's fine. Okay, boiled eggs in the morning. Okay, so there are different other healthier options. Okay, but you do want the breakfast to have the protein, the healthy starch, the fruit, the dairy. Okay, if you only give your child the milk and the cereal, you're only giving starch, so therefore they're only processing starch. So you want to always have the protein and the dairy along with the breakfast.
Okay.
Because
go ahead.
they remember school lasts 8 hours for some kids, so you do want them to have something that will keep them until lunchtime. So it's very important.
And what about lunch options?
Lunch options, if you are to take your own lunch or have the child take his own food, then we want to look at the portions, which is what we spoke about the last time. Okay? You can give them the regular stew chicken, they could normally eat soups, they could eat the corn tortillas, bread, rice, but the portions is important that you minimize. Okay.
And sandwiches, those will work
Sandwiches
too?
are good too. Okay, especially if you're someone that has more than one child and you find yourself having to create several meals, and a sandwich is easier, then you can't do it. Okay,
Yeah.
but you just want to include the vegetables. Okay, try to make the bread wheat, not always white bread.
white bread.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
Now, if there's something that you would like to tell parents, just don't give your child, or as soon as you can you can wean them off of it, what would it be?
More than anything, the sugar. Okay, which is what we've talked before.
Yeah.
Okay, that is their main thing at school. Okay, if they don't find it at home, they will definitely find it at the school. And also increase their water intake. Okay, a lot of children go through the day without water. Okay, if they don't get hydrated, then they become more tired. Okay, so maybe one of the things you want to encourage them is to have your child fill their water bottle at least 3 times for the first morning. Okay, so that they do get water.
Lovely. All right.
All right.
Now we know.
Well, there we go. We have some great tips as to how to get the kids to eat healthy. We thank you so much for coming in, Doris, and telling us this information.
Thank you too.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few. Please